In April, we launched a new feature, as Joe mentioned, called Resource Search. This extended the capability of the Pulumi Cloud beyond just managing your infrastructure as code to managing your entire cloud footprint. When landing on the resources page, you can immediately see insights about your organization, such as the type, package, projects, stacks, and teams by resource count. You can click on search facets to narrow down your search and refine it further. The search syntax is similar to other tools you might have used, like GitHub. Now, let's walk through a use case. Let's say we want to find all of our resources that are in Azure. I can type package Azure. This will return both Azure Classic resources and Azure native resources. Today, I'm super excited to announce that we are taking this one step further and opening up a much larger set of data to search over, resource properties. I was already able to find resources by things like the URN, the parent, the provider, the team they're in, and so on. But today, any property on your resource will be indexed by Pulumi Cloud and searchable after each update. Let's walk through an example. We often hear from customers that they want to search over the cloud tags that they're using. In our environment, we use the cloud tag stack production. So I'm using a dot in the syntax to denote it as a property instead of as a column. And so we know that tags is a property, so it starts with a period, and then the key value is stack production. And you can see all of our resources with that property are returned. Let's walk through another example. This one is also quite common in our feedback from customers. If we want to look by a certain availability zone, I can just type availability zone with the open colon, and that will give me every resource that has the tag availability zone. And we can refine it further by specifying what the value is. So I can say US West 2A, and then it'll further refine it by just those with that value. There can be dozens of resource properties on a resource. And so we can use AI Assist to help us generate the query syntax. AI Assist is our natural language search. In this case, let's say I want to look at my organization and see if we're using any versions of MySQL that are going to be end of life this year. So I'm going to type show my Aurora engines using version 5 and give that to AI Assist, and it will convert into our query syntax. So as you can see here, it knows that I'm looking for an RDS cluster with the engine Aurora and the engine version 5. Now, the reason I said 5 and not 5.7, for example, is this search will catch all of the 5 dot versions. So one resource is returned, meaning that we are running 5.7 in our organization, and so we'll need to go and update it before it's end of life. I can also quickly change this to 8 and see all of our RDS clusters that have already been updated to be MySQL 8.0. We can also run searches to ensure compliance. Pulumi's policy as code will prevent users from deploying resources that are against your internal policies, such as a cloud blob storage that's exposed to the internet. But we can use search to validate compliance use cases. So let's look at this one specifically. S3 buckets in production, and I was lazy here, so I just said read write. Now let's see if AI Assist knows what I mean. Perfect. So this converts it to, I'm looking for the type of resource S3 bucket in the stack production, and it knows that the property is ACL public read write. And luckily, we have none in our production environments. I can just remove the write, and I can see any buckets that are set as public read, which in this case, I know these buckets are intentionally set that way. Now we'll do one last example of property search in the UI. All the searches I've shown you, we can do for any cloud provider. So in this case, instead of having to figure out what the resource type name is, let's ask AI Assist to write us a query to find all bucket objects across the various clouds. So AI Assist will return a syntax for AWS, GCP, and Azure, and it looks like it got all of the syntax correct. Now, you can have all of this data at your fingertips, but searching isn't the only thing you can do with it. You can also export it to perform analytics, which could be something as simple as dumping it into a spreadsheet and using a pivot table, or something as complex as using our data export API to regularly pull it into your data warehouse and build SQL queries or visualizations over it. But the value of resource search or property search isn't limited to the UI and analytics. You can also leverage the resource search API for automation and to create workflows off of your search results. But I won't just tell you, I'll show you. Now, here I have a Python script called search.py, which I can input any search query and then it will return the results. And so in this case, what I'm going to try and do is check our staging environment to see if there are any instances that are still running. Now, for our staging environment, we try and clean it up every Friday. So I want a quick way to be able to just see if there's any instances still running, and then we can go and make sure that they're destroyed. So in this case, I'm doing the .instance type so that you can specify anything that has an instance type properly, regardless of what the instance type is. I know my project name, and I know that my stack is staging. Now, running this script returns 3 results, and I can check at a glance what the instance type is for each of them to know if there's something I particularly want to clean up. I can also link directly back to the Pulumi console and then click on the AWS console link. So in 50 lines of code, you can write a script that checks every Friday, and you could potentially run it in a Lambda function. And if there's results, you could send those results in a notification to notify your team. You could, if connected to Pulumi deployments, you could also take it one step further and use the Pulumi deployments REST API to destroy these resources instead of having to manually clean them up.